Hey everybody, this is a video that my patrons have seen, but I thought I should release it publicly too because the Victorian Ombudsman report into the Victorian zero light emission vehicle tax has got some lessons that I think government needs to learn, and that's obviously the Victorian Government right here, right now, but also thinking into the future. So I hope you enjoy it. This is just a segment from my Patreon news that they get every week. So if you want to see the whole thing, yeah, check out Patreon. All right, let's go. So the Victorian Ombudsman has actually passed down a paper and assented it, yeah, I think that's the term, to Parliament as to formally that the ZLEV charge, the tax, sucks. It's an administrative burden. It has not been done properly. There is poor resolution, structure and guidance for the people who are administering it. That is to say, the VicRoads as well as the Transport Department. They're not actually doing it fairly as per the rules. They're making stuff up as they go along. It's unfair to those, especially with plug-in hybrid vehicles. Like, I've read this full report now. That was what I spent today doing. And out of it there comes 26 conclusions, which is basically a nice little summary of all the main points of the paper. So you could just, if you look at this paper, wherever it might be on the screen now, just jump to conclusions. There's about 26 points there. And it makes that, well, you know what, there's discretionary powers that could be exercised here by government to actually, say, hey, you know what, that charge was not fair, and here's why. So they did an example. They used not real people's names, but they gave real world examples. So they had about 30 complaints, and so some of the examples was this lady kept a record of her trip around Australia. She mapped it and she tracked it, and she was unable to do sections of it in a plug-in hybrid vehicle. Don't know what it sort of was, by the way. And so, of course, she had to pay the ZLEV tax for the entire journey. And she submitted that to VicRoads, and they said no. And then she did an application as to say, well, can you waive this for these grounds, on fairness and what have you. There's some discretionary stuff within the Act that can say, yes, actually, we could waive that, we'll refund you, but no. And so that's been cited as, you know what, you need to, one, make some hard and fast rules around this because it's there and you're ignoring it. And of course, the Department of Transport and Planning has said, yes, we accept what you're saying here, but we actually say no, it isn't happening, despite actual complaints with evidence from 30 different people saying that it is happening. She's also cited that there's been instances where if you're overdue with your declaration, they charge you 39 kilometers per day for every day that you fail to actually submit your odometer declaration. So in a few different examples, people were overseas and then they declared late because they couldn't actually say, well, here's a photograph of my odometer and here's how many kilometers I've done because I'm away from my car right now, I can't do that. So those people, as we know, more than 250 of them had their registration cancelled, and then they were unfairly taxed for kilometers they never travelled, and they never ever got that money back. So this is again a great example of how not to do some sort of road user charge. Government needs to learn from this. Victorian Government needs to learn from this. There's a great little, it starts out, by the way, as a beautiful explanation as to the whole history of how this ZLEV tax came into being, basically. And within the space of essentially really 3 months, it came from something that was, hey, I've got this idea, this is Tim Palace, I've got this great idea, and then 3 months later it's suddenly legislation. And they didn't think about it. People using private roads, plug-in hybrid vehicle owners actually paying unfairly where they shouldn't be, because if they're doing a long distance trip, again cited quite a few times in this paper, they are having to pay for the entire journey as though it was on electric, but it's not. Those things normally have got a little battery that takes the car 30, 40 kilometers, best case scenario, and they're being penalised. People who are overseas and can't do the declaration are being penalised. You lose your registration and they're being penalised. And it just sucks. I just want this High Court case done and for this poor legislation to be thrown out And then if the federal government come at it from the same approach, oh my God, I'm going to scream from the rooftops. In fact, I hope all Victorians scream from the rooftops, because this is not how you do it. Yeah? You do it on emissions. You do it on weight of vehicle. There's different ways of doing this, and it's not through distance-based charging. Anyway, I think I've talked for longer than I have. I've spoken way too long. Sorry about that. Anyway, links are below. Do go check it out.